Maltese is the national language of Malta and a co-official language of the country alongside English, while also serving as an official language of the European Union, the only Semitic language so distinguished. Maltese is descended from Siculo-Arabic. Maltese itself is therefore linguistically classified as a unique branch of Arabic that has evolved independently of its source into a standardized language over the past 800 years in a gradual process of Latinization. About half of the vocabulary is derived from Standard Italian and Sicilian. English words make up between 6% and 20% of the Maltese vocabulary, according to different estimates. The original Semitic base comprises around one-third of the Maltese vocabulary, and typically includes words that denote basic ideas and the function words. Maltese has always been written in the Latin script, the earliest surviving example dating from the late Middle Ages. It remains the only Semitic language written in the Latin script in its standard form. History. The origins of the Maltese language are attributed to the arrival, early in the 11th century, of settlers from neighboring Sicily, where the Siculo-Arabic dialect was spoken, following the Fatimid conquest at the end of the 9th century. This claim has been corroborated by genetic studies, which show that contemporary Maltese people share common ancestry with Sicilians and Calabrians, with little genetic input from North Africa and the Levant. The Norman Conquest in 1090, followed by the expulsion of the Muslims, permanently isolated the vernacular from its Arabic source, creating the conditions for its evolution into a distinct language. In contrast to Sicily, the vernacular in Malta continued to develop alongside Italian, eventually replacing it as official language in 1934. The first written reference to the Maltese language is in a will of 1436, where it is called Lingua Maltensa. The oldest known document in Maltese is Il Cantilena, by Pietro Caxaro. It dates from the 15th century. The earliest known Maltese dictionary was a 16th-century manuscript entitled Maltese Italiano. It was included in the Biblioteca Maltese of Mifsud in 1764, but is now lost. A list of Maltese words was included in both the Thesaurus Polyglottis and Propinaculum Europarae of Hieronymus Magiza, who had visited Malta in 1588–89. Domenico Magri gave the etymologies of some Maltese words in his Hierolexicon, Sive Sacrum Dictionarium. An early manuscript dictionary, Dizionario Italiano e Maltese, was discovered in the Biblioteca Vallicelliana in Rome in the 1980s. Together with a grammar, the Regola per la Lingua Maltese, attributed to a French knight named Thezon. The first systematic lexicon is that of Anpiger Frangiscagius de Soldanis, who also wrote the first systematic grammar of the language and proposed a standard orthography. Maltese became an official language of Malta in 1934, alongside English, when Italian was dropped from official use. Demographics. In 1975, there were an estimated 371,000 Maltese speakers, of whom 300,000 resided in Malta. Thousands of Maltese emigrants in Australia, Canada, Italy, the United Kingdom, and the United States still speak the language, and in 2007 it was reported that Maltese is still spoken by descendants of Maltese immigrants in Tunisia. Classification. Maltese is a Semitic language descended from Siculo-Arabic, that in the course of its history has been influenced by Sicilian and Italian, to a lesser extent French, and more recently English. Today, the core vocabulary is Semitic, with large numbers of loan words. Because of the Sicilian influence on Siculo-Arabic, Maltese has many language contact features and is most commonly described as a language with a large number of loanwords. The Maltese language has historically been classified in various ways, with some claiming that the ancient Punic language was the base of the language, instead of Siculo-Arabic, while others believed the language to be Berber, and under Fascist Italy, it was considered a dialect of Italian. Phonology. Consonants' voiceless stops are only lightly aspirated and voice stops are fully voiced. Voicing is carried over from the last segment in obstruent clusters, thus, 2 and 3 obstruent clusters are either voiceless or voiced throughout, e.g., nicked-bu is realized, need-bu, we write. Voiced obstruents are devoiced word finally and voiceless stops are not audibly released, making voiceless voice pairs phonetically indistinguishable. Consonant length is distinctive word medially and word finally in Maltese. The distinction is most rigid intervocalically after a stressed vowel. Stressed word final closed syllables carrying a short vowel end in a long consonant and those carrying a long vowel in a single consonant. The only exception is where historic asterisk and asterisk meant the compensatory lengthening of the succeeding vowel. Some speakers have lost length distinction in clusters. The two nasals per meter and n assimilate for place in clusters. T and d are usually dental, whereas tsd, zs, znrl are all alveolar. Tsd-z are found mostly in words of Italian origin, retaining length. DZ and are only found in loan words, e.g., adzdztta, newspaper, and tlvin, television. The pharyngeal fricative h is velar or glottal for some speakers. Vowels Maltese has 5 short vowels, I, written a-e-i-o-u, 6 long vowels, I, written a-e-i-e-i-o-u, and 7 diphthongs, represented by ghi, and, written ghu. Stress is generally on the penultimate syllable, unless some other syllable is heavy, or unless a stress-shifting suffix is added. When 2 syllables are equally heavy, the penultimate takes the stress, but otherwise the heavier syllable does, e.g., barjade, bj, jt, he painted, versus barjade, bj, jt, a painter. Historical phonology. Many classical Arabic consonants underwent mergers and modifications in Maltese. Orthography. Alphabet. The modern system of Maltese orthography was introduced in 1924. Below is the Maltese alphabet, with IPA symbols and approximate English pronunciation. Final vowels with grave accents are also found in some Maltese words of Italian origin, such as libetta, sigutta, or soggetta. The official rules governing the structure of the Maltese language are found in the official guidebook issued by the Accademia tal Malti. The Academy of the Maltese Language, which is named Taraf Fuq il-Kit bar Maltia, that is, knowledge on writing in Maltese. The first edition of this book was printed in 1924 by the Maltese government's printing press. The rules were further expanded in the 1984 book as Ieda Mat Tarif, which focus mainly on the increasing influence of Romance and English words. In 1992 the Academy issued the Aggiornament at Taraf Fuq il-Kit bar Maltia, which updated the previous works. All these works were included in a revised and expanded guidebook published in 1996. The National Council for the Maltese Language is the main regulator of the Maltese language and not the Accademia tal Malti. However, these orthography rules are still valid and official. Written Maltese. Since Maltese evolved after the Normans ended the Arab rule of the islands, a written form of the language was not developed for a long time after the Arabs' expulsion in the middle of the 13th century. Under the rule of the Order of the Knights of Malta, both French and Italian were used for official documents and correspondence. During the British colonial period, the use of English was encouraged through education, with Italian regarded as the next most important language. In 1934, Maltese was recognized as an official language. In the late 18th century and throughout the 19th century, philologists and academics such as Michiel Anton Vasili made a concerted effort to standardize written Maltese. Many examples of written Maltese exist from before this period, always in the Latin alphabet. Il Cantilena, being the earliest example of written Maltese. Sample from the treaty establishing a constitution for Europe. Vocabulary. Although the original vocabulary of the language was Siculo-Arabic, It has incorporated a large number of borrowings from Romance sources of influence, and more recently Germanic ones. The historical source of modern Maltese vocabulary is 52% Italian, Sicilian, 32% Siculo-Arabic, and 6% English, with some of the remainder being French. Today, most function words are Semitic. In this way, it is similar to English, which is a Germanic language that had large influence from French, although less so than Maltese. As a result of this, Romance language speakers may easily be able to comprehend more complex ideas expressed in Maltese, such as orographiquement, l'Europa-Hypartitas supercontinentar, l'Irajar, while not understanding a single word of a simple sentence such as Irajal Kigad Fidar, which would be easily understood by any Arabic speaker. Romance. An analysis of the etymology of the 41,000 words in Aquilina's Maltese English Dictionary shows that words of Romance origin make up 52% of the Maltese vocabulary, although the sources claim from as low as 40% to as high as 55%. These vocabularies tend to deal with more complicated concepts. They are mostly derived from Sicilian and thus exhibit Sicilian phonetic characteristics, such as U in place of O and I in place of E. Also, as with Old Sicilian, is written X, and this produces speakings such as Ambacata, Ambaratar, Zena, Ena. A tendency in modern Maltese is to adopt further influences from English and Italian. Complex Latinate English words adopted into Maltese are often given Italianate or Sicilianate forms, even if the resulting words do not appear in either of those languages. For instance, the words evaluation, industrial action, and chemical armaments become evaluazione, as Jona industriali, and armamenti chimici in Maltese, while the Italian terms evalutazione, vertenza sindicale, and armi chimica respectively. English words of Germanic origin are generally preserved relatively unchanged. Siculo-Arabic is the ancestor of the Maltese language, and supplies between 32% and 40% of the language's vocabulary. Amit found that 40% of a sample of 1,820 Quranic Arabic roots were found in Maltese, a lower percentage than found in Moroccan and Lebanese Arabic. An analysis of the etymology of the 41,000 words in Aquilina's Maltese English Dictionary shows that 32% of the Maltese vocabulary is of Arabic origin, although another source claims 40%. Usually, words expressing basic concepts and ideas, such as radial, mara, tifel, dar, xemx, sajf, are of Arabic origin. Moreover, bell letter in Maltese tend to aim mainly at diction belonging to this group. The Maltese language has merged many of the original Arabic consonants, in particular the emphatic consonants, with others that are common in the European languages. Thus, original Arabic, d, th, and d, all merged into Maltese, d. The vowels, however, separated from the 3 in Arabic to 5, as is more typical of other European languages. Some unstressed short vowels have been elided. The common Arabic greeting is salamu alaikum is cognate with islam galaikum in Maltese, as are similar greetings in other Semitic languages. Since the attested vocabulary of Siculo-Arabic is limited, the following table compares cognates in Maltese and some other varieties of Arabic. English. It is estimated that English loanwords, which are becoming more commonplace, make up 20% of the Maltese vocabulary, although other sources claim amounts as low as 6%. This percentage discrepancy is due to the fact that a number of new English loanwords are sometimes not officially considered part of the Maltese vocabulary, hence, they are not included in certain dictionaries. Also, English loanwords of Latinate origin are very often Italianized, as discussed above. English loanwords are generally transliterated, although standard English pronunciation is virtually always retained. Below are a few examples. Note: fridge, which is a slang term derived from refrigerator, a Latinate word which might be expected to be rendered as refrigeratory. Grammar. Maltese grammar is fundamentally derived from Siculo-Arabic, although Romance and English noun pluralization patterns are also used on borrowed words. Adjectives and adverbs. Adjectives follow nouns. There are no separately formed native adverbs, and word order is fairly flexible. Both nouns and adjectives of Semitic origin take the definite article. This rule does not apply to adjectives of Romance origin. Nouns are pluralized and also have a dual marker. Semitic plurals are complex. If they are regular, they are marked by iet, ijiet, e.g., art, arteriet, lands, or in. If irregular, they fall in the pluralized fractus category, in which a word is pluralized by internal vowel changes. Katib, card books, rajal, ergil, man, men. Words of Romance origin are usually pluralized in two manners. Addition of I or JIET. For example, lingua, linguae, languages, from Sicilian lingua, lingua. Words of English origin are pluralized by adding either an s or JIET, for example, frig, fridges from the word fridge. Some words can be pluralized with either of the suffixes to denote the plural. A few words borrowed from English can amalgamate both suffixes, like bricks are from the English brick, which can adopt either collective form bricks or the plural form bricksiet. Article. The proclisical is the definite article, equivalent to the in English. The Maltese article becomes L before or after a vowel. Lomm. Rajna el papa. Il monsieur. The Maltese article assimilates to a following coronal consonant, namely cic, siculata, diadar, n in r, rirazet. S is Syriac, T is Tifel, X6XCMX, is Zarbun, Z is Zalzat. Maltese il is coincidentally identical in pronunciation to the one of the Italian masculine articles, il, which is also L, before, but not after, a vowel. Consequently, many nouns borrowed from Standard Italian did not change their original article when used in Maltese. Romance vocabulary taken from Sicilian did change where the Sicilian articles u and a, before a consonant, are used. In spite of its Romance appearance, il is related to the Arabic article al. Verbs show a triliteral Semitic pattern, in which a verb is conjugated with prefixes, suffixes, and infixes. We wrote. There are two tenses, present and perfect. The Maltese verb system incorporates Romance verbs and adds Maltese suffixes and prefixes to them. Decide, a Romance verb plus ejna, a Maltese first-person plural perfect marker. Dialects. Urban varieties of Maltese are closer to Standard Maltese than rural varieties, which have some characteristics that distinguish them from Standard Maltese. They tend to show some archaic features such as the realization of kh and gh, and the amala of Arabic are into eat considered archaic because they are reminiscent of 15th century transcriptions of this sound. Another archaic feature is the realization of Standard Maltese or o in rural dialects. There is also a tendency to diphthongize simple vowels, e.g., u becomes eo or u. Rural dialects also tend to employ more Semitic roots and broken plurals than Standard Maltese. In general, rural Maltese is less distant from its Siculo-Arabic ancestor than Standard Maltese. Media. With Malta being a multilingual country, the usage of Maltese in the mass media is shared with other European languages, namely English and Italian. The majority of television stations broadcast from Malta are in English or Maltese, although broadcasts from Italy and Italian are also received on the islands. Similarly, there are more Maltese language radio programs than English ones broadcast from Malta, but again, as with television, Italian broadcasts are also picked up. Maltese generally receives equal usage in newspaper periodicals to English. The use of the Maltese language on the Internet is not altogether common, and the number of websites written in Maltese are few. In a survey of Maltese cultural websites conducted in 2004 on behalf of the Maltese government, 12 of 13 were in English only, while the remaining one was multilingual but did not include Maltese code-switching. The Maltese population, being fluent in both Maltese and English, displays code-switching in certain localities and between certain social groups.